With us, Karen Travers, ABC News correspondent from the White House. Go ahead, tell me that walls work, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, the president kind of throwing a little bit of a wrench into the government funding process. The Senate's been chugging along and passing bills and getting it ready to send over to the House to go to the president that would fund the bulk of government operations. A massive, sweeping bill was passed overwhelmingly on Tuesday, 93-7, about $900 billion in money for the Defense Department, the Health and Human Services Department, labor, education, the lion's share, really, of government spending. But it also has this short-term stopgap measure in there that funds the rest of the government, stuff that isn't addressed, through December 7th, and that was in order to prevent a shutdown on October 1st. Well, now the president is saying, he's not happy that the money for the border wall, all of that he wants, $5 billion, is not included. That's because Republicans have said we cannot deal with this before the midterms. It is just too politically risky. We're going to put it off, but we promise we will include it in the next go-round when we deal with the Department of Homeland Security funding after the midterms. Might not be enough for the president. He wants more of a commitment, or he wants to play hardball right now and say, I need it now, not after the midterms.
Let me ask you, this was a bill that had bipartisan support. It covered the HHS aspects that the Democrats wanted. It covered all of the president's spending increases for the military. As you said, it was 97-3. And yet, that's what we have complained about, nothing going on in Washington. Here they got together, they did it, they kept the government open through the midterms, and yet here's the president saying, no, I don't like it. What gives?
The president has to sign this. Congress can pass this, but that doesn't keep the government open. The president has to sign this, and if he is now threatening that maybe he wouldn't unless they go back and add in the money he wants, well, that does throw a big wrench in this. The assumption is that cooler heads prevail and that he understands that if he doesn't sign this, that there would be a partial government shutdown on October 1st, and that Republicans will get blamed for that. We've been doing this a long time here in Washington, and the president has threatened many times to not sign spending bills, to veto a spending bill because it didn't have what he wanted. But earlier this year, he ultimately did sign it. So that's the assumption of where things are going next week, but that doesn't mean the president isn't going to raise a bit of a fuss between now and then that he's not getting what he wants and he's not getting it as quickly as he wants.
Why do you think he's doing this, Karen?
Because he can, and because it was a promise he made to his supporters. I mean, this is a big, big part of the president's campaign promise, and this is a part of his agenda. And for him, he's saying, great, you're all telling me you'll deal with this after the midterms, but, I need something more than that. Let's do this now. There's also a concern that if they lose the House and, the Democrats take control, this is their big chance. Now, of course, there's that lame duck session after the midterms. There's going to be a scramble at that point if the Democrats have taken control to try and get everything they can while they still control the House, the Senate, and the White House.
Is this something that people have the interest in and the guts to push forward, the wall? It seems to be old news to everyone except the president and a few of his supporters.
Yeah, and the president can't do it without Congress.
Right.
And you even have some Republicans who say, we're not allocating $20 billion for this. It's not the best way to use government money to address a legitimate problem. If you want to talk about border security, if you want to talk about, issues down in that area, building a physical barrier isn't what's going to address it. Let's take the money and do something else with it. And that's why you've seen, allocations of $1.5 billion for the border wall. The president wants $5 billion, but of course he wants 20-some too. They're just not even remotely getting to that point.
Right. Where do we think we'll end up? Will the president sign it?
Between now and next weekend? Or?
Yeah. I mean, is the president is this kind of one of his knee-jerk reactions, and then it'll kind of go away and he'll sign it when it comes to his desk?
I think he'll tweet a lot about that he's frustrated because that's certainly a strong signal to his supporters that he is still trying to push ahead on this. But there's no indication that Congress is going to now start dealing with border money between now and next Sunday when the government funding would run out. They're trying to do this all in a very methodical way. They've addressed this in a way that would avoid any shutdown and promise the president they'll deal with it after the midterms.
Very good. Karen Travers, ABC News correspondent from the White House. Thank you so much.